Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy.
Hello everyone, it's Emmy here. I just wanted to pop in really quickly and let you guys know the winner of our giveaway from last week. We had you guys fill out a quick survey, and I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who filled out the survey. It's so helpful for the new year, for a new year of House of Joy, just getting your guys' feedback. So thank you to everyone who filled that out. I'm so excited to announce that Jacqueline Airbaugh, I hope I said that right, you are the winner of the Our Place pan set. So I've already sent you an email, and I can't wait to get that sent to you. But yeah, again, thank you guys for filling that out. We love you guys so much. And yes, I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Hello, welcome back to House of Joy. We are here.
It's 2025.
It's 2025. It is our first episode of 2025.
We could not be more excited because I am a New Year's girl, y'all. I love the new year.
If you can't tell. Also, your birthday now.
My birthday is about to be here. Yes, my birthday
also means
is 2 days away.
We last year on your birthday launched House of Joy.
Yes, we did.
For your birthday. We had a party, we had a live, we had a cake, we had a celebration. And so this year
we're celebrating.
We're celebrating a year.
1 year of House of Joy, you guys.
Of House of Joy.
And Emmy and I are headed up to New York City to see Ellie next week to celebrate Nick's show, to celebrate my birthday, just to celebrate all the amazing things. And I can't believe it's been a year.
I know, it feels insane. I think we keep talking about how crazy it is that it's been a year that we've been doing this together, but it does feel like, how could it possibly be a year? And we thought it would be fun for today's episode, since we just are hitting the year mark, if we kind of took a deep dive back into the year, looking back at what we did, our favorite episodes, what we've learned. Some behind the scenes. And then kind of also looking forward for the podcast and giving you guys some behind the scenes looks into what you should expect for the new year in terms of the podcast. So this is going to be a really fun episode. Also, can I mention that this is our first time ever recording like in the evening?
It is our first time recording in the evening. If you're watching on YouTube, we are in our jammies.
We're like comfy cozy right now.
We're in our jammers.
And so that's kind of fun. So we'll see what kind of energy we can bring.
That's right.
To the evening. Mom just had her hot bath.
I just had a hot bath. I normally would be headed up to bed in about 30, 45 minutes.
But I think it'll be fun.
No, I'm so
I also
excited
need to bring up something that happened to me today because, like, honestly, I don't know what it is. You know what? I have something to say. I woke up this morning and I haven't been practicing this as much, and I need to get back into it because it's totally, I think, changed the energy of my day.
Okay.
But I woke up and I made an intentional, like, praise to the Lord.
Aww.
When I woke up.
So
like,
nice.
Thank you for a day, another day alive. Any day I get to spend here is a blessing.
Aww.
And I want to take that energy into my day. And I do think, like, when you go into it makes such a big difference.
It's like awareness, being aware of the very miracle that is your life. And it is so easy for all of us to just take it all for granted. But when you step back a second, just like you did this morning, and you look back and you go, how is this even real? I even think about all the technology to have a podcast where we can share our stories and our lives, and hopefully lots of value with our friends out there. Miracle. All of it.
It's a miracle. Yeah. Anyway, so I did that this morning because I just feel like I've been kind of not in a negative headspace, but just I'm about to start my period, TMI. But like when you're in that way, it's easy to get in this like tunnel vision of kind of sad, which is good to feel all of those emotions. But I just knew I needed to start this day with intention.
Yeah.
And it's funny because actually a lot of things this evening were going awry for me. And I never felt like really overwhelmed by it, which I usually would.
Yeah.
And
so good.
literally today, so I got a text from USPS, or so I thought it was. And it was basically like, your package
Can't be
delivered. It's to the wrong address. And honestly, looking back, like, I should have known.
Should have known it was a scam. You guys, if you get this email, do not click on
or
it.
a text, yeah. But the thing is, I
You
had
had
just
sent a
package a couple weeks ago to Haddon through USPS, and we used the wrong address.
Yeah.
And
so it felt like, oh,
it
yeah,
literally
I knew that.
felt like, of course, like, I need to get on this. So it like gives you a link, click on the link, update the address,
put your card.
And then I get to the part where it's like, okay, you have a small fee for, like, it basically was like to resend it.
Yeah.
Which made, I don't know, I just didn't question it. It was like 3 cents.
Yeah.
And I just didn't question it. And I was having issues like verifying the card. And then Ellie was like, isn't that a scam? And that's literally the moment it hit me.
Did it hit you? You're like, oh, yeah, this is a scam. Because you know that we've been getting these for a while for UPS.
Right. And I always knew those were a scam because I never had a package that needed to be checked on. But I did have a package through USPS that
you knew was sent to the wrong address.
Was sent, like, I don't know how they got that so on par to what I was going through.
Yes.
But anyway, here's to say I literally had to cancel my card.
Ugh.
And
can you even? It's so frustrating.
Why? How are they sending you texts? Like, I just have so many questions about scammers. Like, and also
why are people so evil? And the ones who want to be evil are so smart.
Like, how do they know my number? And how did they know that I was literally sending a package through there?
But you know what? We are not going to let this, we're not going to bring this into our New Year energy because even that cannot dampen
and that's actually
my
big
excitement.
Point because even that, like, it stressed me out for a second, but I do think because I had intentions this morning of having a good day, it just couldn't even touch me. So, haha, in your face, scammers, you can't get to me. Card is done.
Card is done. So, let us dive in.
Yeah. So, I actually... Probably, honestly, for me this year of the podcast, I feel like I've just learned so much this year being on the podcast, being in front of a camera, talking to people. This is not what my life was over a year ago. This is all new to me.
Amy had like a pretty standard corporate-ish type job.
Yeah, if you've listened to the podcast at all, like, I've talked a lot about how transitioning into this job was very excited, very needed, but also very hard. And so I feel like, honestly, I've learned more about myself, about your business, about you, about our relationship, about, like, honestly, the list goes on and on and on about the things that I've learned. But I wanted to break down kind of things that we've learned through having the podcast.
Yeah.
And these aren't super specific to a podcast, but just like overall things I've learned about myself, things I've learned about life.
Yes.
Through
this menu. Yeah. Or this venue. Yeah. I also want to say before we dive in that for all of you who have been a part of our journey, who have listened, who have gotten value, who've left reviews, who've sent us messages on Instagram, we love you so much. We love doing this together. It's been one of my favorite things to do this year.
Oh my gosh, it's been so fun.
It's been so fun. It's funny because it can be a little, like, even when we're trying to get all the camera and the audio set up, it can be frustrating. Things don't work like they're supposed to. And then when we finally sit down, we're like, oh, hi.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
Oh, hi, let's chat.
That is one thing I've learned. This is not like big, but technology is so much harder. And so much more finicky and so much more, like, you would think you have it down. And
like, oh, we do the same thing every week.
Like, easy.
Except why does it not work this week?
No, literally, it's so hard. But no, actually, in all seriousness, y'all on YouTube comments, Instagram DMs, all the ways that we can hear back from you, the reviews, like, that single-handedly has to be the thing that has kept me, like, wanting to come on, because naturally, like, as you'll see in the things that I've learned, it's my natural inclination, as I think most people would be to feel negatively about, what I said, or that probably didn't help anyone.
I think you often have had vulnerability hangover when you share something that felt intimate or vulnerable, and then you're like, oh. But you guys have been so sweet and so supportive.
So supportive.
When you're living like part of your life on social media, I've been doing it for a long time, but it's new for you. Yeah, it can be a little shocking to the system, but we so appreciate all of your love and kindness. And I am so proud of you, Em. You have done such a great job. You've grown so much in this role and as a human. You're so lovely, and your presence. It's funny because people will always say, like, oh my gosh, we see a total other side to you, to me, since you've been here. And it's funny because there's nothing quite, I don't know, quite humbling, quite vulnerable, like having your 20-something daughter on here with you. Which it's been so great, though.
Sometimes I do have hangovers even about like roasting you.
Oh, no, those are fun.
But it's kind of fun. I mean,
my oldest daughter,
at the end of the day,
Katie,
you are my mom. It's hard not to like.
It's hard not to just. It's a mother-daughter.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter, Katie, is always like, my favorite part is when Emmy starts roasting mom and mom starts laughing hysterically. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, you do take it on the shoulder. Like, you never are offended.
Nope.
So thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
But I wanted to, I made a couple points in areas that I feel like I have either grown in or learned a lot. So the first one being, first of all, I think it's really been reflected to me how much perfectionism can either really hinder me from doing things, or, I mean, sometimes it's good, but for the most part, it really can be a block for me in moving forward. And so I think something that I've learned is like, and something that I continuously have to tell myself and remind myself, first of all, is that everything does not have to be perfect. And on the other hand of that, like questioning what perfect or right even means.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because my personality is just the opposite, where I'm like, let's go, let's do it, let's get it done. And you're like, let's do it right. Let's do it.
It truly has like really challenged me in a good way, because I'm so the opposite, and I really sometimes feel strongly that things should go a certain way, or it just like in my brain works in a way where I'm like, okay, this thing needs to come before this, and this needs to do this. And it reminds me of literally this time last year, like I just could not compute. I was so down for the podcast. I was down to do it. Well, eventually I was like down to be on the podcast, but in my head, like it would have taken a lot longer to get to where we were this time last year.
Yeah.
And mom was just like, no, we're going to do it. Let's just start tomorrow. Like, let's do this. We've already got this going.
And this is such a good lesson for all of you out there, especially as we're headed into 2025 and you're thinking of something that you want to do. So much of the learning and progress comes from doing it, failing, learning, facing the challenges. Like, we couldn't have learned the things we learned without doing it.
Looking back, like, if it were up to me and if it would have been how I thought we should do it, like, I don't even know if we would, I don't know if I ever even would have done it, is the thing. Like, I would have done a lot of thinking about it and talking about it, but I don't know if I would have ever, like,
it's kind of like
gotten there.
If you know, the analogy would be like, you can talk about playing pickleball all day long, but most of the learning that you actually do in something like that is by doing it. And then you learn a lot by doing it. So, yeah. So whatever your thing is, dear one out there, that you've been wanting to do, you really just at some point have to put feet to it and just do it.
Honestly, like, it has been such a challenge for me. Like, the concept of something being done right is not real. Like,
yeah.
I mean, in some ways, technically, yes, there are things like with audio and with video and camera and things that, like, there's probably a better way to do it or whatever. But really, like, your brain is putting those things up for you to keep you in your bubble.
Yeah.
And everyone does things differently. Everyone has a different way of doing it. That's another thing I've learned about podcasting. Like, everyone has a different way of doing it anyway. You kind of have to figure out what works for you. You kind of have to figure out what you're willing to like take time and figure out.
And it's funny too, because as you say, like doing it right or doing it perfect, part of it when you're doing something like what we're doing is that how it's received by the people you're doing it for. And I remember we got some criticism early on about us chatting back and forth. They're like, somebody said something like, just get to it. But then we would also get feedback of like, oh, I just love when you guys are just chatting back and forth.
And that's the thing. Like, nothing is going to be perfect for everyone. And so you really have to decide, like, why do I do this? Why do I love this?
Yes.
And
that's really powerful for everybody else, thinking about your why. Like, and at the end of the day, we would end up saying to ourselves, no, if we do share this, if we do put this out there, this could be so helpful for somebody else. Really, our why is so you feel less alone, so that we can serve you in some way, so that us being, open and vulnerable about our own lives will inspire you, help you in some way. And that has been really powerful to keep us going.
And I think the fact, like, the podcast is what it is because what we make it. So our chit-chatting back and forth, I think someone had written, like, you guys just talk a whole lot about nothing or whatever. That they were basically insinuating that. And it's like,
shout out, by the way, to another one of my favorite friend podcasts, Melanie Schenkel and Sophie Hudson. Theirs is called the Big Boo Cast, and it's basically, this is like almost their tagline, a podcast about nothing.
Yeah, like all my favorite podcasts basically talk about nothing. So you can't get me down. And also, like, that's what we went in. I remember when we talked about the podcast, like, you didn't really have an avenue of any parts of your business that were like more fun. I mean,
relaxed,
you're fun
a little more behind
as a
the
person,
scenes.
but just like relaxed and a more genuine, like,
look at life.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm glad that it feels like that a little bit. And I think that, like, there's a balance of like having
sharing
something be really valuable and also fun and relaxing and almost a break from,
like you're just sitting here chatting with us.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's something I've really learned, and also just something that helps me move forward with the podcast is just keeping in mind, like, because it still comes up, even though I know this about myself, like, I can get really caught up in minuscule details instead of the big why, the big picture. So that's really been something I've learned this year. I guess I can go on.
Yeah, what's number 2?
Number 2, this one kind of is similar, but learning that I have valuable things to share and I have valuable things to give and talk about on the podcast. Like, it's as simple as that. I think at the beginning I was like, why would I go on a podcast with my mom? Like, you have this like trove of knowledge from years and years of learning and just being in this world of like self-help and personal development. And I'm just 24 and I was like freshly out of college.
I know Emmy kept saying, I just don't have anything valuable to
like,
what am I going to say? Like, what am I supposed to say? And I'm like, just share whatever comes up for you, whatever you're struggling with. And it's funny because I remember the first time that it was so clear to me how valuable it is. I mean, it had always been clear to me how valuable it is to have you here and your voice here, is when we were doing the habits that we loved. And you were basically like, okay, I don't really have 5 habits that I do every day, but here are the ones that I want to have. And I'm like, that's so fresh and real and funny,
Yeah. And it's like, honestly, the reality is, like, sometimes I don't always have a new or super exciting thing to say, but even on the episodes that I felt like, especially that one, but there's been a few where I really felt like I have nothing to add to this conversation, where people have like commented specifically. It's like almost crazy how specifically they've made comments like, I felt so seen by what Emmy said, or that she doesn't have it all together. And it's like so valuable to me too, because like sometimes it's easy to just get down on yourself, like not just in a podcasting sense, but like life in general.
Yeah.
Like, what if I have nothing to add? And what if I have no value to people? But even in because there's episodes that I haven't felt like that too, but specifically in the episodes where I really felt negative about myself are the ones that like
the people were so kind and they were like, oh my gosh, I loved that, or I loved when you shared that, or I loved your vulnerability, or whatever.
And it just makes me like share what you feel like is on your heart, because
trust me, we all have valuable things to add to the world, so put your voice in there. Get your voice out there, share the things that are on your heart.
And it's funny too, because like I remember when I was little, me and Ellie my sister were always so obsessed with YouTube videos. I still am. Like, I have always been an intaker of people's thoughts, like what they do, the like small details of their life. Like, I've always been a person who is interested in that. And I always wished that I could talk about what I did or like what I thought, just even in a small way.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, you just think that you don't have an interesting take or an interesting life or anything to say. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is like, people, you don't need some big thing all the time.
Right.
Like, people are interesting to you because they're interesting people.
Yeah.
And anyway, I've been growing in that way a lot. And I think if it weren't for, you know, you pushing me out of my comfort zone and my perfectionist,
kicking you out of the nest, the proverbial nest.
Yes, like I don't, and you know, this podcast has been such a good way to do that. But I think like even on TikTok and like I've been trying to step out of my comfort zone in other ways for myself as well.
Yeah,
and
it makes me think too, like because it is a kind of, that's what it feels like. It feels like stepping out of your comfort zone, and we have lots of listeners who need to do that in 2025. And who need to believe that they do have something valuable to share.
Yes. And I think it's like, yeah, even this morning, like you just have to wake up and know that you do and tell yourself that you do. And it kind of goes into another thing I'm going to share, so I'll go into that later. But yes, I have value to add. And people will take...
And I'm going to add it.
I'm going to add it.
I love it.
The third thing is, and I've really, I think, learned this from you. And I think this is a really, really like, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't think this is talked about enough in any business space or any content, like someone in business. I think that people do this who are successful. Okay. And is that not everything has to be a big new idea. And not everything has to be, like something you've never said before.
Right.
And
it's funny because I'm sure you watching me run my business and teaching my programs this year, because sometimes I do think that like, oh, I know I've said this.
Yeah.
I know I've said this a lot, but it's funny because all of the best truths, all of the most important things are worth repeating. We need to say them over and over again.
It's like the thing about cliches, like they're cliches for a reason. But I really have, like, watching you in your business, you know, sometimes I would even have that thought to myself, like, I feel like she's said this like 50 times.
She has.
But it's interesting too, because I've listened to it the same amount of times, and I always find something new and fresh.
And I think one of the reasons for that is that you're a different person now. Like when in my program, Life Mentoring School, by the way, you guys, we just happen to be open for enrollment right now when this episode comes out. Yeah. We are in the middle of our Made for More workshop, and we are open for enrollment. And that program is kind of based on a yearly curriculum. And so every year the curriculum repeats itself. And it's so funny because people will ask like, so what do you do the second year? I'm like, well, we repeat the curriculum. But you ask anybody in our program, I've been seeing so many amazing testimonials in there today. But you ask anybody in our program and they're like, oh, it's so different this year when I learned about true self, false self. It's so different this year when I learned about emotional resilience, because you're a different person encountering, and because I do teach the concepts, kind of the same concepts in a fresh way. or however it's like resonating for me.
Yes.
I'm a different person.
Well, it's like the message is the same.
The message is the same.
The way that you present it is different.
Is different. And so our people say that in the program all the time. And so I think that's really neat. And I find for me, when I go back, I love to read the same books. Like when I go back and read a C.S. Lewis book, even though I've read it 5 times, I'm looking at my stack of C.S. Lewis books over there on my desk. But when I go back and read it, if it's the 5th time I've read it, it feels like the truth of it hits me different. And so I think that's such a cool lesson to learn, because
it reminds me of, sorry, I cut you
go ahead.
off, but it reminds me, this just hit me, but it reminds me of the Bible. Like,
the
so
Bible
many of the
is
same
one
lessons.
book.
And yes, so many of the same themes and lessons throughout it. And you could look at it as like one book. I'll learn that. But you go into any passage in the Bible and you will find something different that sticks out to you every single time you read it. There's not, one thing that goes old or that doesn't resonate with you.
Yes.
And I think, with just knowledge that I've learned, and I've just learned it for myself, and I've learned it through this podcast too. Cause like I think back to when we first started, and a lot of times I would get inspiration from your blog on what we would have an episode about, or if I needed.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, it's your own words. It's your own stuff that you said. But when you look at it now, it takes on a whole new life because now you've had this experience. And I think that's so important for people also in even just business. Like, if you have thoughts about something, they can, be spread out, and you don't have to feel like you can't say the same things over and over.
Yeah. I mean, that's really part of when you learn how to become a good teacher. It's because you've been through the material, 7, 8, 10, 20 times. And even then, I'm always the one, I feel like I got the most out of that, because you make those truths and those things that you're learning, just part of who you are. So I love that. Yeah. It doesn't, famous ecclesiastical phrase, there is nothing new under the sun.
Well, that's another thing too. Like, I have heard people who have tried to, hate on people who are in the space, because essentially everyone says the same thing, to do the same thing, and this will cure this, and in health spaces. And but it's because it's usually true, and these people have a grasp on how to best, live your life, and how to think better, and to,
And really, it's not even so much, I think this is what's important too, as I'm teaching in this workshop right now. By the way, you guys, you could still join the workshop if you haven't joined yet, because, man, there's no better way to start the new year than that. We'll put the link for that in the show notes. But I think that when you're doing something like trying to make a change or whatever you're learning, the repetition is so helpful. But really, it's kind of like what we talked about before. Until you put action to it,
it doesn't have the same meaning. It doesn't.
Right. And so, you can say to yourself, like with health things, I know what to do. We don't have a lack of knowledge. What we have is a lack of implementation of that knowledge. And so ask yourself this year, as we go into the new year, we should be learning all kinds of things and staying inspired and reading, but are you implementing it? So before you say to yourself, well, I've heard this before. Yeah, but
have you really put it into practice?
Have you put it into practice?
Yeah. So those are the biggest things that I've taken away from this year. Obviously, I've learned a lot, like in terms of details about how to post, how,
just the details, the back end of the job.
And
by the way, you guys, we're so excited about 2025. We have been in the midst of making some really fun changes that I think, especially for you, in the podcast, that are going to really help you grow. And, you've done an amazing job. But what we realized as we have, gotten some consulting on it, and we've just been like, it's been so fun, and we have learned already so much there, but there's so much yet to learn.
Oh my gosh.
So many ways to grow.
And that's another thing, like, I'm just so thankful for this past year of growth because it's propelled us to be able to seriously learn like a whole new world of podcasting. I think last year we really just wanted to have fun and create this new space to talk and conversate and get a new platform for people to learn this really important information. But I think it's going to, we're learning to hopefully take it to a next level to where, we're learning ourselves. I'm specifically like really want to learn more about the ins and outs of the podcasting space. It's a whole thing that we just, you don't know what you don't know.
The other thing that has been fun is planning the season, the 2025 season.
Yes.
And planning out the episodes. We've had so much fun brainstorming around that.
We just have so many fun things planned for 2025.
We would love, by the way, for you to come over to the House of Joy Instagram and tell us what you want to hear more. It's so funny. Every time we ask this, we get people who say, talk more about your relationship with your 20-something daughters or, with your 20-somethings. And it's funny because every time we have an episode that's kind of around that, there will be people who say, oh yeah, I like that episode, you've done that, you've covered that a few times, kind of like we were just saying, but it still is always
to my point,
most
people want
requested
to hear it again.
Yes.
And I think that's another thing that we kind of forget, like us being able to sit here and have these conversations every week. Like, I saw this post, I think that Hope had reposted on her story, my cousin, and it was basically like, I basically won the lottery because my mom is my best friend. Aww. Like, there really is no bigger gift. And I think that, we're so lucky that we even are able to sit here.
That we love
and never
doing
get tired
it
of talking to each
we
other.
never get tired of chatting it up.
And we hear each other say the same things, like, over and over again. And
it's fun because we've had Ellie home with us and just surrounded by all of our family. And I'm telling you that it has been... I just never imagined when I was the mom of little kids that the gift that it would be to have grown kids that are so incredible, that I love so much, that I know I'm going to cry, that I love spending so much time with. Like, it's literally my favorite thing. And, we're kind of at the end of the holiday season where we've had all this time together, and I'm so sad because I love you guys so much, and I'm so grateful for, just being able to have this kind of relationship with my kids. It really is incredible.
Yeah.
So
cool. Thanks for that. That was really good.
Sorry. Anyway. Okay. Guess we're done with the 1 year of House of Joy anniversary.
Well, we were going to talk about
behind the scenes party.
I wanted to tell you guys about my 3 favorite episodes from the year before we
go. Yes.
Because you can go back and listen to them and see either how far we come. I haven't listened to some of these episodes in a long time, so it might sound like really old and really like, I don't know. But looking back, we have a catalog of all of these episodes, and if you've
covered so many great topics.
If you're new to the podcast, seriously, I would implore you to, is that the right word?
Yes, implore you.
Go back, search through the podcast. We just have so many good episodes that don't let them get buried. If you ever, just like health, mental health, whatever it is, we have so many good episodes that I'm so proud of, and you should go listen to them. But when I was looking back at all of our episodes, I was thinking, first of all, our episode 176 was what your anxiety is trying to tell you.
That might be one of my faves too.
One of my favorite episodes. I personally think I have some troubles with like overthinking, anxiety, whatever you want to call it. And I know that's still very prevalent today. And I just think...
And I will say, related to that, overthinking and under feeling. So not really feeling and processing your emotions, which brings me to that whole series that I did this year on emotional resilience. Goes along so good with. Oh my gosh. So go listen to the anxiety one, and then go listen to the series on emotions. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it's called Unlocking Emotional Freedom. There's like 10 parts, her solo episodes. That's another thing. Like, if you guys aren't, the solo episodes are shorter, but they are fire. Like, sometimes I go back and just listen to those really quick because they're quicker than our chatty ones. They're more to the point. They're getting like you the information you need.
Yeah. So good as you're heading into the new year for inspiration. All of them are, but especially those short to the point, just kind of inspiring.
And we have really fun plans for the solos and another
we do. We're going to do another good
series
series in 2025.
Y'all are gonna
but you got to come tell
series.
us if you have ideas, because we've got a lot of those episodes planned out already.
Yep. So anyway, love that anxiety episode. And another one I love and constantly think about is number 185, which is why you need a morning routine. I feel like that is one of our strongest, especially your strongest thing that you do every day. Yeah. And I think it totally changes your day. And I think that episode was really helpful and really practical on how to have a good morning routine, which I truly think sets you up for the rest of your day, for the rest of your life. If you have a good morning routine, you have a good...
You have a good day. If you have a stack of great days, you have a stack of a great life.
Yeah, there you go. And then the other one was the 20-somethings, which I don't have the number for, but it's 170-something.
Yeah, relationship with your 20-somethings. That is definitely our most requested topic. We have several episodes which talk about that to some degree, but that one is kind of a dedicated episode for that one. And yeah, it's really, really good.
But yeah, if you guys ever have episodes that you feel like we haven't touched on or you want us to touch on more in the next year, we're all ears. Always, the Instagram DMs are always open. I mean, anywhere that you want to try to send those to us, we are open to them. Sometimes we will do a little poll on Instagram. So if you're not following us on Instagram, it's House of Joy Podcast. I try to be on there.
Yeah.
As much as I can.
Yeah. And we have some really good interviews coming up too. If you have anybody specifically that you would like us to interview, just let us know. We're kind of filling up our interview calendar. We try to do one interview a month. And so we're working on that for 2025. We're just
so many big
excited.
plans, but so thankful for the year that we've had. Thankful that we have all these opportunities in the new year. And we're so thankful for everyone listening, and we just love you guys so much.
We are. Happy first anniversary, House of Joy.
We did
good job,
a year,
Em.
girl.
Okay, now Miss Edie's got to go to bed.
Yeah, we got to get in bed. It is too late, guys. We got to go to bed.
We loved spending this evening with you,
and now it's time to go. Okay,
love you.
Bye.
Bye.